Maria Goff. I'm so excited you're here.
Oh,
Thank you for
thank you,
joining
Kim.
me. I mean, listen, I do want you to know that there was one time we were together for a series of days. We were up at the Oaks. And when I got on the plane, I was like, I have one job and one job only. And that job is to try to ask Maria to be on my podcast. I had one job. I actually had a job that weekend. I was helping with the writers retreat.
You need to aim higher, a bigger job. You can handle it.
No, I'm telling you. I mean, I know that there are lots of folks who ask. And so I'm just super grateful that you said yes. So thanks for taking it.
I remember you asking too. It was very sweet.
I was nervous.
Of course. But then I said, what are we going to talk about? Like I wanted to plan for this. I wanted spreadsheets and, note cards and stacks of books, which I kind of already have. So I don't know. Hopefully it'll help. I don't know if it'll show.
No, I sure hope you didn't feel like you needed to prep. We're just sitting down as friends. So here's my first question. For those who don't have the very great pleasure of knowing you personally, tell us how you spend your days and with whom you spend your days.
Oh my gosh. Well, it changes from day to day, but I am married to Bob Goff. Some people might know him. He's written a couple of books.
Yeah.
He started out with Love Does, and then that just started this really wonderful chain of events where he left his law firm. He started speaking and writing books. He did more things around the world. And so the further out he got in his life, I felt like I started to anchor in more at home. And so that's basically what my days look like, is that I'm taking care of his home life, his place that he comes back to after all of his adventures. It's the place that he launches from, just like our kids did when we raised them. It just became this really wonderful landing place, a safe space for all of us. And I found over the years, like that was really a fun job, to think of it like, this is my career. This is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to treat it like it's as important as it is to me and our family. So we have 3 kids, Lindsay, Richard, and Adam, and they are all married now. And we love their spouses. And 2 of those sets have had kids now. So we've got another one on the way. And this year has been remarkable for us, I would say. So I'm just doing more and more of what I decided that I wanted to do in the very beginning. And that was to be here at home and to be an anchor and to do whatever needed to be done from home base. Awesome. And it's taken me far. Yeah. I've been able to travel too and do adventures and also really interesting projects behind the scenes. And that's been really fun.
Well, you do it beautifully, and it's so fun for me to have a front row seat for some of that. In fact, you show people this just beautiful side of a great partnership. In fact, I was asking some of my friends yesterday, I said, okay, I get to talk with Maria Goff tomorrow. Yeah. Do you have any questions for her? And they looked at me wide-eyed, and one of them finally said, I don't have any specific questions. I just want to be her friend.
Oh,
and I love that about you. You are that person to so many people, both those who have met you personally and those who have met you through your work and your writing and Bob's work and his writing. And I wonder, did you always want to be a friend to millions of people? Like what would 10-year-old Maria think about your present gig?
Okay, well, 10-year-old Maria was still just as or freshly introverted as I am now. So, I have a very short list of people that are my people. And I'm always honored and blown away when hearing things like you just said, like, oh, I'd love to have coffee with you, or I'd love to be your friend. I'm like, why? Like, what can I do for you? I don't know. Not sure I'm qualified.
Oh man, you are so qualified, overly qualified.
Well, what I try to do in my introverted self is to live my life in a way that hopefully, if anybody watching or, listening in would say whatever she just said inspired me to be more of who I am. If she's introverted and does what she does, if I'm a 9 on the Enneagram. I don't know if you've talked about that.
Yeah.
That's been a great tool for Bob and I that we just sort of ran into not that long ago.
Yeah.
We found that knowing what our numbers are in the Enneagram is really helpful in how we relate to each other. So he's a 7, an enthusiast, does a lot of things. I'm more of a 9, so I'm a peacemaker. So our roles fit each other really well. And so I just try to live into that. And if somebody else can relate to being a 9 or to be wanting to stay in a position in life where they can pour in and love their family and the immediate people around them, or their neighbors even, that's okay. Not all of us have to do big things, but we can do equally important things. And so I decided at some point in my life, that's how I'm going to view my life, instead of comparing it to Bob's and thinking I have failed some way because I'm not like this big grandiose idea. I don't have the guts and the courage that he has to go into some of these places that are incredibly dangerous and change lives. I can support him from home. I can pray for him. I can help him pack. I can roll his bulletproof vest and shove it in duffel bag for him,
As one does when one is the spouse of Bob Goff. Do you have your Altoids and your earbuds and your bulletproof vest? Oh my God.
Somebody needs to remind him to bring those things.
Wow.
So he has a team of people that make him who he is. And I just feel like I'm honored and happy to do that too. And there might be other people listening to us, this conversation, that feel like they are empowered by being behind the scene, being a support system, and not the one on point or the one on the stage under the spotlight. I feel like we're all important. We all have to contribute into the world based on who our authentic selves are, and to find that without comparing yourself to the people around you that you could think are better or more interesting or live more exciting lives. It's like, no. Just lean into who you are and how God made you. And wherever you are on the Enneagram, whether you're introverted, extroverted, all of those things matter. And the sooner we embrace what that is and declare it and to not be ashamed of it, the better. Yeah.
So let's lean into that a little bit, because you have self-proclaimed as an introvert.
Yes.
I'm married to an introvert.
Yes.
Bob might define extrovert. I don't know very many people who are more extroverted than your husband. I mean, it's like off the charts.
Poster child. Extrovert.
It's extraordinary.
I nominate him. Yep.
Well, you have the strongest vote. You've seen it.
Yeah. No.
So here's my question. There are lots of folks listening who have that same dichotomy in their relationships, maybe in a marriage, maybe in a friendship, maybe it's mom with a dad with a kid, and you're just not even wired the same. So I would love for you to coach us on how you make that work, because you're very different people. And I have loved watching in person how you have this, like, it is, I mean, folks listening, I'm just going to say, I said this to Bob too at one point, that when I met him, I was a little not wanting to. And the reason was because I so admired him from afar that I just didn't want to burst that bubble. We've all met people we admire, and then we come back from that meeting and think, should have just seen the movie, should have just read the book and never talked with you in person. And I felt the same thing about him. And then later, when I was honored to meet you, same thing. I was a little nervous. Like, I loved her book. I loved her from afar. And I'm so excited to tell you, you're actually that great. In fact, you're even better than the book. You're better than the movie. Yes, it is. And you two together, it's so fun to watch, because I never feel like you're trying to make Bob more introverted. Also, very best of luck with that.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like he's trying to make you more like him. So tell us how to do this.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll tell you what I've learned along the way.
Yes, please.
It didn't start out that way. Okay. Like, that's it's that phase when you're dating and you get married, and it's just kind of pink and fuzzy,
you're on crack. Yep.
Yeah.
Totally.
So it was that. And the full impact of what our differences hadn't quite hit me. Sure. And so I was still under that illusion that when we got married and I heard that the two shall become one, in my naivety, I thought, great, we'll just be me.
Yeah, right. The two will become me.
Yes, because I know how to be me. Well, sort of, but I mean, I felt more comfortable being me. So, yeah, you can imagine my shock and surprise.
He didn't obey.
No, or should he have? And so then it was figuring out, how do the two of us become one for real without sanding too much of each other's edges off. So I feel like tools like the Enneagram or personality tests or finding common interest is good, but to stop trying to make the other person be like you, instead create a new focus. And for us, it was like, let's just try to be more like Jesus. Let's have that common denominator be not to become each other, but to be more like Jesus. Because that's like the ultimate goal, right? If we just have this goal of being, like he gets me on stage. So sort of, and he has me speak from time to time, and it's not my thing, but if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't do it. Actually, it's not lost on me that my book got published, I believe, because of him and the success of Love Does and him writing a chapter about me called Sweet Maria. That's what his nickname was for me. Now that's everybody's nickname for me.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. So go ahead.
Name is now like a public name. So, but he brought into light what my life was like, and it created an interest. So it's because of who Bob is that I get to be more of who I am. And it's actually more of what I think Jesus is calling me to be. It's leading me more into who my truth is and my wiring and how God sees me. And I can do the same for him. Like I'm learning to coach him on some things about the importance of being around for holidays, the importance of being, for every family celebration and event, that is a high value for me, and for him to like schedule accordingly. Like we're learning how to do that in a way that honors each other.
That is so beautifully said. And I can't imagine that you walked into your marriage with all of that wisdom. And so I'm just going to understand, right, that there were some bumps along the way, but there are so many folks get to the bump and they're like, this is not it. There's no way we can't possibly do this together. So what a beautiful thing that I love what you said about he's helping you lean more into you.
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right.
That is just so beautiful.
Yeah. So one of the first things that attracted me to Bob when we were dating was how social he was. And he was always on the phone. He was always gathering people together. And it was so opposite of what my life was like at the time. I was pretty isolated, living a very quiet life, volunteering for Young Life, just kind of getting my feet under me as a young woman. I don't know if we want to go there, but actually when Bob and I met, I was fresh out of rehab and I actually had a warrant out for my arrest. Yeah. So wasn't marriage or dating material. And it's all not as crazy as it sounds, but it's kind of fun to say. Like,
I do love it. There is a line in your book about that. And I laughed every time. I read the book several times, Maria, and loved it every time.
There's hope for other people that feel like they might not have it all together, Someone might fall in love with you in spite of all of that.
In spite of the warrant. Yep.
Yeah. So he did. And it was really good for me to see how I was attracted to that side of him that was the opposite of me, that was very social, very connected, very wanting to get people together all the time. But as soon as we got married and moved into our first apartment, and he's on the phone and he's like inviting our Young Life kids to come over for dinner. I don't know how to do this.
Right.
I love this about you, but I don't know how to incorporate that into our freshly made life together. So, it's hard. I'm not going to candy cook. It's hard, but we've learned a lot. There's hope in it. And I think that's what you need to hang on to is the hope that you will get better. It's the hope that when you get married, you are fresh, you are brand new, you're growing your own roots for the first time, and to stick with it, to water it, to feed it, to make it, do the things that's going to help it to grow instead of tear it apart. And so I think that's probably one of the things that works for us that's good is that we're pretty optimistic that way.
Mm.
I'll feel things that aren't quite, going well, but then he sees how it'll be better because we've worked on this. Like, aren't things great? And if we do more to help it, then it'll be even better. That's how we've, I think, managed till now.
So smart.
And smart. I have to add one more thing.
Yes, please.
I'm learning because I'm a 9 on the Enneagram. That's the peacemaker. Apparently we're the best people to marry.
Well, I believe it. And I'm sure Bob would agree.
But and I don't mean that in a, like a, aren't I great?
Totally.
But to a fault, we will avoid conflict. And so I can imagine a relationship bringing up is just wrought with conflict. So I just will avoid that at all costs. And that's probably helped us
Totally
probably work to our advantage. And I'm just like, I'm not going there. It's like, we'll never get we'll call it the D word. We'll never go there because we just haven't found a good time to do it. Like,
it's never convenient.
I don't want that conflict today. So let's move on.
So that's super interesting because a lot of Bob's professional life before he pivoted into what he does now was professionally managing conflict as an attorney. He was a very, very successful attorney and did it really well. Yes. So that's interesting that in his 8 to 5 or 8 to 8 job, he was working with conflict all the time. And then do you think that was part of why your home was such a safe place? You just weren't into it. You weren't into it.
Yeah, right. That wasn't my wiring. And I think it was a nice break for him to come home at the end of the day and to know that I was trying my best to make sure there was less chaos and, more welcoming. And sometimes it didn't go well and I'd have him go back outside and we'd start again.
Take 2.
Okay. Yeah. Like, the first 5 minutes is like, we're off. The kids are off. I'm off. Let's just play this over again and make it a game with the kids. And then he'd go out to the car.
I love that.
The window. He's coming,
Who is it? Oh my gosh. I just love that. You mentioned that in your book. And that is the most practical little bit of marriage advice, honestly. And I am a word person. And so I can learn a lot from, why don't you just pause there, sister, reel it back in and start over, because I think we tend to dig our heels in the wrong stuff. Instead of saying, why don't you go back outside? We're going to try this one more time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the key to that is to just constantly be nurturing a sense of humor in your family, to not be afraid to see the lighter side of it. Timing is everything on that, but
right. Totally.
It's good to laugh, but it needs to be at appropriate times. And I feel like that's kind of one of Bob's superpowers is he's really funny. And plus his, being a 7, everything's great. Like he could go there so easily. Oh, we talk about him being like a balloon filled with helium and I'm more like the string.
Right.
And so like we work really well together because of that. So even in those times where there's conflict, to be able to just like find the things that buoy you, find the things that'll lift your spirit. Sense of humor is great. Starting over on something, a conversation, or even coming home, arriving at the end of the day, just do it over. It's okay.
I love a do-over and I need them usually by 7 a.m. So I love that. So I have a question. Totally. Yeah. So Maria, I have a question for you about how to balance this public part of your life and your natural inclination for, protecting the perimeter and being with your family, because you didn't choose really that piece of it. And you've beautifully talked about how the more public Bob's work has been, that's helped the things that you love and your heartbeats become more public too. And the book is an example of that, but also we'll talk about the Oaks in just a minute, and other projects that you have done so great have stepped into those public spheres. And so how do we balance that? And I'm even thinking about in terms of social media. I feel like we all are kind of tugged in these 2 directions, that there's a public piece and then there's just our home and where we are and being with the people that are our people. So how do you balance that? Because I've seen people come up to you like they are your bestie and ready to move into your guest room. And that kind of comes with your territory.
How do I handle that? I don't know in the moment.
So graciously, Maria Goff, I am ready to call for a restraining order.
Yeah.
And you're always so gracious and you see the person right where they are. And
Yeah.
yet I know that's not necessarily, that part of what you do. You weren't really raising your hand for that part. So how do we balance that idea of so many people wanting a piece of us and only really being able to do some things
Yeah.
uniquely us?
Yeah. I'm still figuring that out. And I'm half joking about, how did I do with that? I feel like my goal is to always be kind with people, but then inside, sometimes I worry that my real feeling has telegraphed itself on my face. Horror. So I'm glad to hear you say that I probably came across kinder than I thought I might be. But I also I think about how the Bible says, let your yes be yes and your no be no. And that feels like really wise advice for setting good boundaries.
Okay,
And
talk to me about that.
Okay, so everybody's boundaries are going to be different. And they're not there to build walls to keep people out. They're to help you stay within your lane. So I know I can't get past the boundary that I've set for myself of what I'm willing to do and not willing to do and feel effective on the other side. That wouldn't be me. So Bob's boundaries set a lot further out, like actually the world, which still blows my mind. I don't know how he does it, to tell you the truth, but it's for real. It's who he is.
Right.
And he has great people helping him manage that. But I sit in awe. I just know in my heart of hearts, that's not what I'm made to do. So it helps me stay within my boundary, within my side of the wall, and just make sure that I'm doing the best I can within that. 9 tends to be so not wanting to cause conflict or to make the right decision, or we're kind of tormented within ourselves to the point where we might not do as much as we could do. And then we just become inactive. And so that's the unhealthy side of me. And that's where I have so much work to do on me that I can't compare it to what Bob's doing in him. And for me, it's okay, Maria, do your thing, do the best that you can do within these parameters. So making our home beautiful, making it a welcoming place, being intentional about inviting the people that we do, making sure that when they're there, they feel loved and welcomed. Find out what they like to eat. Find out the activities that they like to do. Do a deep dive on whoever you're loving within the parameters of where you think you can love them and go for it. So that's my challenge. It's a huge challenge for me. Staying at home isn't easy. People might think it is, but it's just as hard as picking your career outside your home and doing the best you can do outside.
No question. So
that's what I'm constantly, it's a constant. How can I do this better? What can we do more of or less of? And I don't know if that answered your question, but it still gets back to that. Declare who you are, declare what it is that you're made to do in this world and go for it. And don't be afraid to say no when you need to say no on something. And I have with Bob a couple of times where, he went to Somalia and I think he said no to me. He goes, that's just going to be too dangerous. Thank you.
Thanks for that. Yeah.
I was going to say no, but you're good for me. Yeah.
That's awesome. I have loved hearing a little bit more of a peek behind the curtain of how you do this on the regular, both in our friendship, but also in your remarkable book called Love Lives Here. I love this book. YouTuber people looking, this is a wonderful, wonderful book. You wrote a great book. I think I've told you, I've read it several times. And I want you to know the first time I met you, I made a ninny of myself. I hope you don't remember this. It was
meeting you. I don't remember the ninny part.
Oh,
yeah.
Yep. I had very recently read your book, as in on the plane to meet you. I finished it. And there was a section that made me weep uncontrollably on the plane. And I thought I'd gotten it together. And then I met you face to face and started in on the crying yet once again.
Oh, yeah.
And you were so kind. It was a section about, actually, there were multiple times when I cried, but
Sorry.
the Ninny, oh no,
Oh my
it
God.
is so well written. I mean, this book is so great, and I will nudge you later about writing another one, Maria, because you have a gift with storytelling and bringing big, beautiful truths into bite-sized pieces for the regular heart, for an ordinary girl. So you just do this so well. But one
Thank
of the spots that made me cry like a ninny was regarding parenting.
Yes.
And my Anna, my eldest daughter, was still not even halfway through high school at this point.
Yes.
But you have a section, darn it, about letting go. I don't remember the name of the chapter, but it's about when you you kind of coach the reader on how you and Bob have let go in different circumstances, and specifically saying goodbye to your kids when they went to college.
Yeah.
And I would love for you to tell us a little bit about that. I'll try not to cry like a ninny this time.
Well, you might have to quote some of those things that made you cry.
Well, okay, here
All I
specifically
can remember
is this thing.
Yes.
Okay, so for our listeners, tell us what we're doing here.
Yeah. So, well, it's a hard experience. It's just so hard. You pour into your kids and you want the best for them. And it's such a privilege to see them through all of the stages of their life. And our goal was to always raise them so that they would transition successfully out into the world and to not become who we wanted them to be. But again, like what, becoming more like Jesus, what would he have for them and how can we support that? So, I mean, we were all in. It's one thing to be all in and recognize this is part of the process, but it's another thing to feel like you're having open heart surgery as the event is happening.
Totally.
And nothing, I don't think, prepared me for it, or nor could I prepare anybody else for what their experience will be, because there's no two families alike.
Right.
I mean, I did, before we went through the first experience with Lindsay, I did have a parent tell me after they had sent a child to college, like they were so relieved, so done. So
right.
Dropped in horror. Like, how could you go that far and then just feel like later?
Right. There's so many different ways to do it. And there are so many steps leading up to it. So everyone does it differently.
So that probably helped me think, I want to feel everything. Yeah. I want to go through this stage with them, including being empathetic for what each of our kids were feeling at the time too. Not so much like, oh, poor us, a child is launching, but poor them. Like,
right. It's big for them too. Yeah. Probably bigger. I mean,
this is a pretty cushy nest they've been in. And
turns out
I just saw your dorm room. Like,
totally. You have ramen coming down the pike. Yeah.
So that makes it more meaningful, or made it more meaningful to me, to just try to feel all of it, even though it was heart-wrenching. And I'm sure you've felt that too. Totally. Actually, I know you felt that too. So there are other families that go through the same thing. But when the moment when we were standing in the dorm room as a family, all of us were there, and it was that moment to say goodbye. And it was just an out-of-body experience, I think, for all of us. The siblings that, the two brothers that, now the sister's going to be gone. And even though I'm sure that the pecking order, there were some perks in there.
Totally.
It's still going to be different.
Right.
And we're a close family, so it's hard to ignore that. But we couldn't pray because it just went from Bob got started praying, and then he had to like nudge Richard to be like, can you pick up the baton and you pray? And then he said a few things and then nudged Adam. I mean, we just were like a actual mess of emotions and feelings. And Bob looked up and was just like, did this signal that they do on an airfield when the controller on the ground is telling the pilot, pull the chocks. We've pulled the chocks. Time to go. You're free to fly. This is it. This is the moment that we've just let you go. We're still here. We still love you. Right. But this is it.
Come back, right? We want you to come back.
The airstrip is always available. You don't even need to check in with aircraft traffic control. Land whenever you want.
Right.
We will always be here for you. So it's heart-wrenching, but it's so important to go through those steps the way you need to go through them. Even, I don't mean to throw the other parent under the bus. It was like,
yeah,
I don't
that's
know
what they
the
needed.
whole story. Maybe that child needed a good riddance.
Right. An even shorter runway. Yeah.
Right. But, and who knows what their life is like now. But I think for Bob and I, we were really hoping that it was the long-term relationships that we were looking for, including well into their adulthood, including well into them creating their own family nucleus, which would be a part of their family of origin with us.
Right.
Like, just like you get to pop off like your own little atom and get to do your own thing. And we still want to know you when you're doing that. That's the goal.
I have loved watching this in process with you and your adult children, because you're one tiny step ahead of me. And so I'm just watching everything you're doing and trying to copy it, because Maria, I think what you're talking about, that moment where you're like, okay, here you go, fly. We're ready for you to do it. Even though I'm going to go to the minivan and cry.
Lump in my throat. Yeah,
totally. You're going to do great. I need a coffee, but whatever. You've done that so well. And I'm watching you do it again and again, because after college never stops. You have new beautiful in-law children, then you have grandbabies, and you have new projects together. And I just have loved watching the freedom that you give to your adult children, and then watching them really want to hang out with you. I mean, that is a win, sister.
I wonder if there's a correlation there.
Yeah, I think it's exactly it.
Like that might be good to take a look at in all of our lives. It's like when we feel like we have to sacrifice, and it's just so hard to go there because we'd rather stay in our comfort zone of what we know.
Totally.
And don't want to, roll into that next phase, to just have confidence and believe that God's plan is good for family and for relationships. And if we can just keep leaning into that and trusting and letting ourselves be full of hope for the future and not despair, then, the sky's the limit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm along for the ride all the way. Sign me up.
I love it. One time I was you and Bob are lock and step with this. I was talking with him on the phone. This is quite a while ago. My own son, who will be named Mitch. He doesn't listen to this podcast, so you don't need to worry. He's a great kid. And at the time I was struggling with knowing how much to, how much leeway to give, like how much do I involve myself in all the things? And it was kind of that transitioned into kind of junior high, early high school. And Bob listened patiently, and he said, it's a funny thing with kids. The more you let out, he didn't say a leash, but basically the more freedom you give, the more you let out the line.
Yeah.
Yes, it's amazing. They'll just come back. They want to come back. I've thought of that a million times since then in lots of parts of my life, but particularly in parenting. Trusting our kids that they will come back. If we're building something beautiful here, they're going to want to come back. And you guys do that so well.
Well, and also that releasing some line, it's a statement of respect. It's like, I see you for who you are and who you're becoming. And let me give you some more room to do that, instead of like our reaction is, you're getting too far out there. I don't know you anymore. Puberty's hit and hormones are raging. And who are you? Are you even my kid?
Totally. Yes.
Like, I don't recognize any of this. And the reaction would be to pull back. And instead to just be like, no, this is our time to show respect. This is our time to honor who they're becoming. It's not easy to do, but I think it's worth it. I think it's worth it. So, payback time might be after that next phase occurs and you realize they're older now and they're doing more of who they are and they're creating families of their own. And there's a mutual respect. And they're saying, hey, we're going to go buy a house. You want to go look at it with us? Like, oh, that's what an honor.
Right. Because they know
too much, but
no, but they ask you that because they know the line is fully out and you fully trust them. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Maria, I want to talk to you a little bit about your work in making spaces beautiful. And so I somehow read your book the first time and a half and did not really pick up because I'm a very visual person. And so it took me until I got to first I got to your home. So you invited us to your home. I went to a Dream Big a long time ago. And part of that experience was to go to the Goff house. I kept looking around like, are people kidding? Bob's like, here's our address. See you in a few minutes. And we drive up and there you are on the front porch. And you were just the most wonderful hostess and made me feel like I just really belonged there. So that is a gift you have. And I see that not only at your home, but also at the Oaks, where I am grateful to spend quite a bit of time. You took what used to be a camp for sweaty teenage people and bunks that had some funk. And you made this into this beautiful space where it looks like, in fact, I was talking to Bob a long time before you opened, and I was like, oh, we're doing a camp. Do you need some counselors? I've got teenagers. And he finally was like, it's less Y camp, more restoration hardware. And it's absolutely beautiful. And the reason it's beautiful is because of Maria Goff. You have this gift.
No,
that's the truth. Don't deflect. Okay, I'm telling you.
I'm reflecting on how many people made all of that work though. So it was an honor to be a part of it. And I
know you had a team, but you have an eye and a gift, and you are an interior designer. And somehow I did not know that.
Yeah. And I love doing that. That was part of what kept me sane, staying home.
Raising little kids. Yeah.
We used to, we bought homes and fixed them up and flipped them and all of that. So I have some practice in that.
Yes.
And then later, when Adam was in high school, I went back to get another degree in interior design because I thought I've been doing this for so long. And honestly, I felt like on the job site, I wasn't given any respect. And I thought, because I don't have a degree. Well, that was naive of me. It has nothing to do with that, because when I went back and studied it, I already knew a lot of the things because the lab portion, I was heavy on the lab portion.
Right. You've done this in real life.
Experience. Yeah. So over the years, Bob and I have just done that with our homes, and then have had opportunities to do it in other places too, like in Washington, D.C. and in Canada. And then now in California at this retreat center. So I was like, send me in, because here's how God made me. I like seeing something that's maybe not been loved very well in a while, or that's run down, or it hasn't lived up to its potential. And I can see it almost instantly in my mind how great it could be.
I love it.
Not because it's necessarily because it is really fun to express my creativity that way, but to think about how the people will feel when they come there. I get really excited about that.
Yes, I see that. First of all, I feel that. I don't know if you know this, but every time I'm there, I've been there a lot of times. Every time
it's like we go to photos.
It's the best.
It's every other
best. It's the best. And if you're listening and you haven't had a chance to get to the Oaks, you've got to look it up. We'll put all the links in the show notes, but there are lots of ways to get there and lots of reasons to go. Wow. But when I'm there, I'm constantly taking photos and sending them to people. Look at this. Maria did this. Look at this. Look at how beautiful this is. Look at this. I take pictures of the shelves and think, I want my shelves to look like this.
I know who you can call for that.
Well, listen, beautiful. And I'm pretty sure you had a hand in it. But I see you having these themes. Here's my theory. You have two words, I think, that return over and over, or that return to me, I guess, over and over when I look at spaces where you've touched. Safety and rest.
Yes.
I just feel like you return to those over and over, that you want people to feel. And you even just said that it's not just that you want a new color of paint. No, you want people to feel something.
Totally.
So talk to me about that. Why safety and why rest? Because you do it maybe just without thinking, but that's what I feel when I'm in a space where you have been a part of making a beautiful.
Yeah. Well, rest is easier to address because I feel like rest is holy and we all need it. And so a retreat center is just begging for people to come as they are and just let down.
Yeah.
from what life is giving them at any
Yes.
given moment, and to just be like, okay, here I am. This
Oh,
is
seriously, I just breathe deeply for you just to
right.
say that.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So we all need that. The safety thing is a little more complicated because I grew up in an environment that didn't feel safe.
Mm.
So, and in that environment, I remember thinking to myself, gosh, if ever I had a family or a home or a husband, I want it to be different. And part of that was the environment itself. Like, how did the house feel when I walked into it? And it didn't feel very safe for me. My parents did the best job that they could, but they had a lot of their own unresolved pain and issues. And I, as a highly sensitive, introverted person, took all of that in and thought, wow, this is a lot and it's affecting me. And I want to do the opposite of that if I've ever given a chance in life. And so Bob and I together have been doing that. It's been really rewarding to I wish I had the formula for it, but I know just keeping people in mind as I'm designing keeps it away from a selfish creative outlet. Like, I wonder what an all Black room would look like. It's like, wow, it could be very, very cool. And I would love that challenge, but I'm not sure that would be for a lot of people. And so in my mind, I'm trying to think of like a bigger audience, like a bigger bulk of people, like at the retreat center coming through there. There's a little bit of everything for everybody. And so that's where my challenge is creatively, is like do a little mid-century modern mixed in with traditional and classical or classic, and then, farmhouse, whatever. I just try to blend a lot of different things together because I know that the people coming there will be a blend of a lot of different personalities and tastes and, how they grew up and what they think is a safe and peaceful environment. So that's been fun. I really like doing that. And then I think it's just ended up being kind of my style now. I don't know if I could do a different thing.
I don't even know all those adjectives you said in movements of classic and traditional.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever you're doing, do all of that, because the effect is exactly what you're saying, that I feel safe. I feel like I belong, and I feel like it's a place for rest.
Good.
In fact, we're moving into a time, speaking of rest,
Yes,
with the holidays. And I want to pick your brain just a little bit about this, because I love it that you have this heartbeat for people to rest. And I think the word holiday implies that we're going to rest, but boy, I am really good at taking holidays and making them busy. I love to cook. I love for things to look beautiful. And so I'm imagining I'm not alone, that can get to outweigh the rest piece. Yeah. The tilt. Everyone else is resting, but not me. I am making toffee. So like, how do you do that? Tell me how you figured that out, because I know you like it to be beautiful. And so what do you do? Tell me how to do this. Coach me, Maria.
Okay. Well, now that's another thing, Bob and I, if Bob had his way, like if I just said, okay, you do Christmas, we would look like the Christmas or whatever. It would just be the roof and the reindeer and the snow and all the lights covering all the things.
You'd have a couple things going on. Yeah. Ferris wheel.
Yeah. It would be big. It would be very, very big. So I'm very like, give me serenity, give me the real, that's to me, the commercial view of Christmas. And I like the serenity and the meaning of Christmas. So it's like simple, white, green, a little bit gold maybe. And I got to the point where I've even telling our kids, like, okay, so the 3 wise men brought 3 gifts. So what 3 gifts would you like this year?
Perfect. You don't get more than Jesus. So,
yeah, exactly. So that was helpful to finally figure out, wow, I could just implement this in our own family and it won't be like crazy gift hunting. So
you do that. You do 3.
Yeah.
Even here's the real question. Even
I know.
The grandchildren, they have different rules.
Well, I don't even think about that for them.
They have a different scale.
They do. I'm just like, they're just whatever.
That's totally fine. They probably will see Jesus more clearly if you don't have that rule for them.
Right. There's generous Jesus. And then there's the 3 wise men. They came to Jesus' birthday. Yeah. Wow, I'm going to have a lot. There's a lot of theology in there that I'm going to have to hash out with my kids and grandkids. Okay, let's get back on track, though. So some things that I've learned the hard way. Okay. So Bob's parents were out of town, so they would come and stay with us in our home for Christmas. So I would take on that as well as trying to cook everything out of Julia Child's cookbook.
Right.
Okay. So the goose, the Christmas goose, Christmas pudding, the things that you light on fire.
Right. You did it.
Deck the halls. Like, oh, wow. So I'm out there. I know I have that edge to me, but I have pulled it back in to keep it more simple because I started noticing that in the middle of all of that Christmas hoopla, my kids were like glazed over.
Yeah.
I'd even have one that consistently would climb under the table and fall asleep on Christmas. Seriously.
I think I know which one. Yeah.
So that wasn't good. And I was aware enough to know, like, I'm exhausted. The meaning of Christmas is getting lost. My kids aren't even enjoying this. So what can we do to change it? And I thought, well, why don't we just ask them? What if we just ask the kids what it is that they would like for Christmas? Like, how do they want it to? Now, we didn't ask them about the three wise men thing. That was just like, that was non-negotiable.
That was top down. Yeah.
But as far as like Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, what would be the ideal for them? I was blown away. They didn't want the Christmas goose or pudding. They wanted In-N-Out. Like
In-N-Out burger.
Let's go to In-N-Out.
Yeah.
Let's get the burger in the mall and the milkshake or whatever. And then, that's what we could do on Christmas Eve. And then maybe Christmas morning, we could have Christmas eggs and then, hang out all day and play with our toys. I'm like, that is so doable.
Yes.
But the side of me that is creative and likes to design stuff had a hard time letting go of the pomp and circumstance of what the Christmas table could look like, because that made it more special to me.
Sure.
So we wed those two ideas together. And on Christmas Day, I set our table to the nines. Like, that's when the Christmas china comes out because it's the only time you use it, and the party popper thingies and, all the twinkle lights and the candles. I mean, it's gorgeous. And then one of us runs to In-N-Out with everybody's order.
Awesome.
Some back. And we put it in ours, china and the crystal cups, and enjoy our In-N-Out dinner in an environment that reads Christmas for sure. So I feel like that's a way that everybody could enjoy Christmas and it still feel like Christmas to all of us. It's hard to do, but it's so worth it. And now it's like that's become the tradition.
Totally.
And that's what we're looking for anyway, right? Yes. Is the tradition that's going to be meaningful for everybody. And we all laugh about it. We're like, oh my gosh, we go to In-N-Out on Christmas Eve. How funny is that?
It's the best because I think you're keeping the main thing.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
And the main thing can start to be that I am so tired. I can't even drag myself out of bed on Christmas morning because I've been running around like a freak. That is not the main thing. That's letting other things take over.
Right. Right. And so that's where you start. Like, define what the main thing is. And it could be different for everybody. For me, it's like, it's Jesus's birthday, basically. Actually, that's how we dealt with Santa Claus. We just, he was very much a part of school and stuff. And so we would say, well, Santa Claus is like the clown that you have at a birthday party. Like, that's not the main thing for our family. It's Jesus's birthday. So we try to keep it like that.
So smart. Are you having a new round of glory with grandchildren in the holidays? Because that's a different gig.
It's a different gig. And we're newbies at it too. Cause we raised little kids to adults, but still being in the grandparent role is a whole different thing. It's just the wonder of it all. I think I've heard other people talk about that too. Like, it's just because I don't have these lenses of responsibility and am I keeping them alive?
Yeah, right. It's not a problem.
Have they learned their developmental skills on time? And how about their manners? I mean, all of that weighs on a parent. And I want those things for my grandchild, but I'm not on point with that. And
it doesn't matter if they're eating broccoli in your presence.
No
problem.
It's okay.
It'll work out.
It's all okay. Which is a good thing. I think I wish I could go back and tell my new mom self that it's going to be okay. Yeah.
That's so good. I'm not even a new mom and I need to hear that. So I have a couple more questions for you.
Okay.
Do you have time? You're doing okay?
We're doing okay. Are you doing okay?
I'm doing great. This is so fun.
No potty breaks. No.
Oh, do you need to? Because
no.
okay.
Is this when we have snacks? Look,
I could give them to you, but they're in Iowa. I'll bring this up.
yeah, no.
Okay. This one is a little bit of a tough one. So
Okay.
just for me, not for you.
Oh, okay.
So you have endured a lot of loss. You write about some of these things in your book, and I just know them from being your friend. You've lost in relationships. You've endured loss in the
Lodge.
fire of the lodge, this beloved home. If folks don't know, it's a beautiful home in Canada that you built for years and opened to literally thousands of people that burned down a couple years ago to the ground.
Yeah.
And you write about that beautifully in your book. And one scene that sticks with me always is that you felt like you needed to hold everything that remained and kind of try to figure out what it was. Was it a part of the dishwasher? Was it a doorknob? Like you just would have to hold it before you could really say goodbye.
Yeah.
And through that process, you said you figured out how to be sad, but not stuck.
Yeah.
And I feel like that will preach right now in our cultural moment. How can we be sad and honor that and hold the things that we've lost, but not get stuck there?
Yeah. And thank you for bringing that up. That was a huge loss for our family, and the lodge was a special place, mostly because the purpose for why it was built, it was to serve other people. And so to have a project like that our elementary, junior high age kids would want to hang out all summer long and help with this project and serve people. I see it now in their lives as adults that they have that same heart to gather people and serve them. And so it wasn't just the burning of the lodge, it was the loss of all of that had so much meaning to all of us. So to recover from that wasn't quick. So the sad part, I needed to give myself permission to take as long as it needed to take, to feel all the feelings, to feel all the sad. Very different than Bob. The way that he feels sad is that he can go there, but then he can move on quickly. So where we connect is that we want to move on. Yeah. We just don't want to stay in the stuck, because there is hope for the future. And this isn't the end of the story. Like if you flip to the back of the book, the Bible, it's just like, it just keeps going. And we want to be a part of that in our lives. We want our lives to represent that plan that God has for all of us. Things will keep unfolding. Things will keep evolving. There's always hope for things. And so to do things in God's glory, for me, it feels like, well, I don't want to be stuck in this place of sadness and grief, because that's not honoring what could be next. But we did sit down as a family when we were all in that state of grief, not knowing what we were going to do next. And we went around and said, okay, what does everybody what do you think you want to do from here? Like, we're just going to put build a deck over this big crater and stick a couple of picnic baskets and then use the buildings around it and call it good. What are we going to do? And unanimously, everybody went before me, excuse me. And it was like, we need to rebuild. Like, we definitely need to rebuild. Oh, we've got to rebuild. Like, everybody had that sense of conviction for different reasons. Lindsay and John got married there. They had their service out on this lawn that ironically was still there after this horrific fire took, within its envelope, took the entire lodge, but not some of the trees and this outstretched green grass in front of it.
That was a miracle that it was so contained.
Very much so. Yes. Yeah. So everybody had different reasons why they wanted to rebuild, but it kind of, I could feel the anxiety building in me, because in all honesty, in my sadness and in my grief, in that period of time where I was in that moment, I didn't want to. I didn't think I had what it took to do it mentally, physically, spiritually. I mean, I was just shook to the core. And I actually said, well, to be honest with you, I don't think I can do it. In my heart of hearts, what I think would be very wonderful is if maybe we just take this as an opportunity to walk away from here and find something closer to home. Can you believe that?
So you were the dissenting vote.
I was the dissenting vote. But what I didn't realize at that time, where some people could think it was stuck, was actually God working on the seed in me. It was like, in your near future, not only will this lodge get rebuilt, but you're going to open something closer to home.
How about that?
It wasn't an either or, it was a both. It was like so indicative of what I do in my relationship with God. It's like, oh, let's just like, can we just like look at everything within this box and make it really wonderful? He's like so much bigger than that.
Oh, you and me both. I'm very good at bossing him.
Yeah.
But how that's such a, I didn't know that story. I love it. How tender it is that you were able to be honest with your family.
Yeah.
And also on the side, God was like, perfect. That sounds like
Yeah.
a great idea. And we're going to do both. And
Yeah. And he honored that in me, and we were able to rebuild. And it was the last summer before pandemic that we finished the rebuilding of the structure, and it just looked like it was reset. We call it the diamond fills reset again. And we made some little changes inside to, I mean, it's an expensive way to change a door.
Don't recommend it.
Yeah, people ask like, how much is it? I'm like, really, we just tried to do exactly what was there, but it was an opportunity to like expand this or do that. But it really has the same, feel as it did before. And then to be like, wow. And then here we are. At the minute that was finished, to get this call that the Young Life Camp right here in San Diego was going up for sale. And it was just like, we can't ignore that. That just feels like a miracle in itself, and an opportunity beyond belief to continue to serve people near us.
So with just a little distance, how do you view that now? Because you wrote the book really when you were still reeling from grief.
Yeah.
So how has that changed at all, or what's the view from where you stand now?
Yeah. I think I'm in a better place. I can talk about the lodge without crying, but it's still like, my heart feels it. It was still a loss. And then also the worst part of all of that was how deep that grief was for me, that it just kind of jarred loose a memory from my childhood that I had suppressed, which I had been molested when I was 5 years old, and just like shut that down, didn't do a thing. 5 years old, what do you do? Don't even know what happened. What do you do? And then in an environment in my home life to be, that's not a place where people talk about anything or share their heart. So it got buried. And I remember in my 20s or 30s, I was probably watching Oprah, and somebody on her show was saying something about a suppressed memory. And I actually had the nerve to make fun of that. Mine was so suppressed, like, I'm not even going to believe that could happen. Like, that person's probably making that. But when the lodge burned down and my grief went to that level or the depth that I'd not explored in all of those years, it was really shocking to me to have that bubble up. But thank goodness that it did, because now I can deal with that and the effect that had on me, and the trauma that we experience, like the good, the bad. Like, now I can really, roll up my sleeves and say, okay, this has affected me. That thing that I suppressed didn't go away just because I couldn't remember it. It was still there affecting me today. So what am I going to do with my trauma? And it inspired me to actually say that there was some things in my life. I struggle with depression. I'm not afraid to say out loud, like, there's been trauma in my life, and thank goodness that's all changing. But if we're honest about it, it's only really been like within the last, 5, maybe 10 years where that's become a thing where people talk about it.
Right.
Thank goodness, because we really needed it after this last bit of time that we've just all gone through.
No
We
kidding.
are equally traumatized to be like, yeah, this is okay to say that you are. And there's joy, and there's hope, and there's things that we can look forward to. And then there's this stuff that happens to all of us. Pain's pain, no matter what kind of pain and grief that you have. But it can all be talked out loud. It doesn't need to be shoved down into the depths we are.
You live that way, Maria. You live both and. You live looking at the beauty that can come from ashes, which is just, it takes an enormous amount of heart and a deep, profound faith. And I have learned so much watching you do that and being your friend. And I'm just so grateful that you could share a little bit of that with us today. I have one quick question to finalize. I don't think that's really what I would say. I have a couple of questions that we ask all of our guests at the end.
Okay.
Um, And before I do, I just want to look in your face and tell you thank you, because
Oh,
I just adore you. I
you're so
really just so adore you. And I can't wait to see you again, which is really soon. So I'm excited about that. Okay.
Can we both bring our green sweaters? Because I think
Yes. I dressed like Maria Goff today.
we need to be twinsies.
You know about color and design. Is this classic or
Yeah.
traditional or mid-century modern? You get to decide. Okay, I have 2 quick questions we ask everybody. First, they're total book nerd questions.
Oh my
My
gosh. Okay.
first question is,
Yeah.
what is a book that you recommend over and over to people across the years? So I'm a fan of the backlist. I've written a couple books myself, and I have a heart for authors who've had a book out for a while. And
Yeah.
I love those books that I return to over and over. So is there a book that you return to over and over? And then maybe if there's a book that you have on your shelf or that you're looking forward to reading in the near future.
Okay. Okay. Wow. I have to give this some thought, because
you can hem and haw.
okay, so the book that I would recommend over and over again is, I think it's a classic by Paul Young, The Shack.
Okay, great.
You read that book?
No, I'm one of the only humans left that haven't read it. Yes. Okay.
Somebody likened it to, it's as classic as Pilgrim's Progress.
Wow.
In our day and age, like like a newer version of that. And Paul Young wrote it himself, not ever writing a book. And he just wanted to give a gift to his family, which I resonate. And that inspired me too. When I wrote Love Lives Here, was this is for my kids. Yeah. That's who is in the other seat. And that's who I'm going to write to. So it's a beautiful book. There's tragedy in the beginning, but it sets up for what, how God meets us in that tragedy in the shack.
Okay.
So
great.
yeah, so totally recommend that book. In fact, I've pulled it back out because I want to read it this Christmas. So I usually have a stack of books constantly rotating through. It's probably not the best way to read.
No, it's brilliant.
Because I really can't quote anything from any book. I'm like, I don't know where that came from.
Somewhere in the stack that happened in that stack.
So but the Shack by Paul Young is on my stack. Then the most recent book actually that I just read was What Happened to You? Actually, no, not Paul Young. Oprah Winfrey, and I'm going to look, sorry, because I don't want to mess this up, Bruce Perry. Okay, so it's in my stack.
Yes, you had to look at your stack.
I've got a stack.
But you like that book.
I like that book a lot because, I'm not a fan of tragedy or trauma, or
not many are.
I don't want to come across like that, but I don't think it hurts to become as knowledgeable as possible on how to deal with it. And that was one of those books where I felt like the two of them did a great job. Oprah's story is very much tragedy and abuse and stuff. And so she shares that, and then her journey on how she reconciled all of that and healed from all of that. And, he's a psychiatrist who has spent his life work helping people. So I get inspired reading books like that because it keeps that flame of hope alive when I'm reading books that are actually shining light on what's to come. Yeah. So I think for anybody that feels like trauma is a part of their life, I think of, what are those toys where it's like you'd write on it with like a stylus thing, like a
sketch.
You're actually writing on the thin plastic, and then the thing underneath is sort of a waxy cardboard.
Yes, and then
you write on it, and then when you rip it off and it clears that picture, there's still an indentation on that waxy cardboard that original drawing made. And I really think of my trauma like that. And I can't ignore it. I want to live like I'm happy-go-lucky and everything's great and nothing bad has ever happened. Wouldn't that be wonderful? But if it's really part of who I am and I'm learning from it, why not embrace it? Why not study it and research it and figure out, how do we heal?
Yes.
Would be the goal.
Even with the indentation. Yep.
Indentation. Yeah, it's possible. So what happened to you is a great question that we can all ask ourselves. It's a great book. And then it's a great question because we all have stuff.
Right. Maria Goff, thank you for your time. I'm so grateful for it. You continue to teach me so much, and you're just a really great friend. So thank you for spending time with us today.
It's been my honor. I'll see you soon.